Welcome to Mama Mandala, where magic is somatic. I'm Hagar. I'm so glad to have a moment with you. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to explore the idea of what it means to come home to ourselves. And then we'll do a practice, a breathwork practice, a pranayama practice from the yoga tradition that helps to clear our center and re-anchor ourselves in it. And we'll meditate a little bit and bring this idea of coming home to ourselves into the body. So what does it mean to come home to ourselves? A home is a place of familiarity. It's a place where we get to ground ourselves, to release ourselves. It's a place where we can let our pieces scatter. I think about the way one comes home, takes off the shoes, throws them out, like throws the socks in the laundry, takes off all the uncomfortable stuff. Maybe the jewelry comes off, the bra comes off, whatever needs to come off in order to make ourselves comfortable comes off. There's a shutting, there's a release. And at the very same time, a home is a place of regrouping, of gathering, of collecting ourselves. It's a place where we get to exhale this breath of releasing the day, releasing the experience, releasing ourselves into the emotions, into the feelings that we have about whatever it is that's going on in our lives outside. And then collect ourselves, gather ourselves, center ourselves, regroup, and ground ourselves, right? It's a place where we have this sense of earthiness, of connection to where we are. It's a place where we get to integrate our journey. I think about the mythic, right? Like the lore of journeys that take the heroine or the hero away from home into a process of discovering who they are, weaving together the fabric of who we are, of who they are, taking the lessons from the adventure, considering all the dangers that end up also then shaping the character of the character, right? And then finding through this process of longing the way home. Now, sometimes it's a way back home if we think of Odysseus, and if we think of this journey that takes such a long time to return home. It's a journey of nostalgia and longing for the embrace of where we're from, this embrace of the origin of our being. So think of what that could mean for you metaphorically in your life. Where does that meet you? What does that mean to come home to yourselves? Some of us are very good at feeling comfortable in our own skin. Like the symbol of the turtle is really wonderful for many of us, not as a being who necessarily withdraws into themselves, and because the turtle sometimes we think of the turtle as this symbol of withdrawal, of fear, of disconnection from the environment and just turning inward quickly. And that's part of it, right? Because archetypes and symbols are rich tapestries we get to tap into and explore different aspects of ourselves through each archetype, symbol, character. But the turtle is also, or the tortoise, is this being that takes their home with them wherever they go. And so it's not just a symbol of retreating from the world, but it's a symbol of learning how to be in the world and being comfortable in our own skin, making a home for ourselves that we take with us wherever we go. And some of us have this experience, again, if we take it to the fairy tale, to the mythology, to different stories. Some of us go through a process of being maybe in a certain way banished from home. Like think of the fairy tale heroine who often is sent away by her evil stepmother, right? Maybe she's sent to meet the horrible witch Baba Yaga, who turns into actually an ally, right? Who ends up being helpful not just a harmful being in the heroine's life. But when Baba Yaga's her stepmother sends her into the forest, she sends her into the forest thinking that she's going to be eaten by Baba Yaga, because sometimes that's what she does. She eats children, or at least that's the story. That's the way to scare children, right? But think of Cinderella's stepmother, or that Cinderella still lives in the home, but she's no longer part of the home in as part of the family, but turns into a servant, turns into not an equal in the home, in the comfort, in the love, in the embrace. Right? Think of Snow White, again, banished away, sent to be killed. Another example, right? Killed in the forest. And so sometimes inside ourselves and in our lives too, I also think that a lot of times there's the fairy tales and mythology comes to give us a bigger expression to some things that are happening in every to every person in some way or another, whether it's inside or outside. So it's not exact, obviously not the exact experience as they have in fairy tales, but it's something that symbolizes something that we can relate to and see ourselves in. But when we go through an experience of no longer belonging, or maybe never have belonged, what does that do to us? And what is the journey home like? What do we then imagine the home to be? How do we feel in ourselves a sense of home? One of the things I do love about fairy tales and mythology is that the journey away from home, and this journey of great maturity, right, and facing dangers and really growing growing who we are, is an invitation to make, again, similar to the turtle but different, to make little homes the way that Snow White makes a home with the dwarves in their home, right? The way that there are characters like the princess and the swans who makes a home in a cave for a while. There's these beautiful beings along the way that help and support, and then there's these beings that are dangerous. But a lot of the times the characters end up making a home in themselves with the environment that they're in, that previously they thought of as a very scary environment, but then they discover that this environment is actually more nurturing than the place they come from at the moment. Right? So how do we in our lives learn to receive nourishment where we are? How do we center ourselves and learn to make that womb like, the cave like, the safety space for ourselves, the safe space for ourselves wherever we go and whatever we're facing. And I think that a lot of us collectively right now are facing an experience of being, in a certain way, to some degree, banished from home, because the familiar ways how the world has been, what we've known reality to be, is really shaking under our feet. It's really becoming something that no longer holds us the way that it has before. And now we are left to really build and figure out and reconstruct as we through the process of this collapsion. That's a word. This collapse and this falling apart and this disintegration. There's also simultaneously an invitation for reconstructing, for rebuilding, for reformulating, for considering what else and what more we can do and how else we can possibly be. A home is a space inside of us, if you're coming home to yourself, where there are boundaries, it's not the great outdoors, but it's a place of boundaries. That's why there's always a shelter for the heroine or the hero or whoever is going through a journey in fairy tales and in mythology. There's places that wrap around them. There's homes along the way, right? There's shelter. A home is a shelter. It's a place where we get to be safe for a moment, right? So it's a place with boundaries. And when we consider coming home to ourselves as this process of creating clear boundaries for ourselves, then that becomes a very empowering process. And again, we can do that wherever we are. We can create boundaries and wrap ourselves in the qualities and in the I'm trying to come up with a right metaphor, but we can basically wrap ourselves in the things that keep us safe and taken care of, and decide what comes in and what doesn't. And that has a shadow too, because then we can take it really far in the other direction, and try too hard to always stay safe, and that's not possible, because a home is a familiarity. What makes something a home is this feeling of like, okay, this is my safe space, this is my familiar place, this is a place where I feel, again, a sense of belonging, a sense of connection, right? If it's the home of the origin, this is where I'm from, that's my tribe, that's my family, that's where the familiarity lives. And of course, not all of us are fortunate enough to come from homes that make us feel this longing when we leave it, because not everyone is fortunate enough to come from a home of safety and love and warmth, right? So you can consider all of this and map it onto your lives in different ways. But the familiarity, which is so wonderful, and we all want to make sure that we have enough of this safety and familiarity, can also be then the word that comes to me is a trap, but that's not exactly what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking more that it's the shadow of it is that we then don't do the things that make us grow. That we think that we have to be safe all the time, and then we don't dare. We don't try. We don't fall on our faces and learn. We don't lose ourselves in the forest of our lives and then carve a path that is our own on our way back home, or on our way to a different home, on the way to make a different home. I wrote a little essay about some of the symbols of home. If you want to read it, I'll leave a link for you in the description of the video. But I was thinking of how when Snow White goes into the forest, right? When the hunter releases her into the wild, into the forest, and tells her to go as far as she can from the palace, from the home that she comes from, the home that used to be this sanctuary and now is taken over by the evil stepmother, who of course has her own journey and story of pain, which we don't need to get into right now. But when she goes into the forest, and then she finds shelter with animals, and then she finds the dwarves, and then she makes a home with the dwarves in their home, and she's in this beautiful process of homemaking and making it her own. Now, of course, there's a lot of misogyny in that story, and I don't want to turn my back on it. It's just not what I want to focus on. But of course, there's so much misogyny in this. There's the whole, like, she needs to cook and clean for them. But there is something about that, if we have to take into, I think, include the very clear way of seeing the misogyny there. And we want to also consider, to make a home, we need to be able to clean. In order to make a home, things need to be reorganized and made better and reconfigured all the time. A home is a place of nourishment. So it makes sense that in order to make a home the heroine of this story, cooks. And cooking and feeding others and feeding ourselves is a way of deep connection, of a deep sense of integration with something more than ourselves, because we're bringing the outside in. And we are alchemizing. We are cooking is literally alchemy, right? It's making, taking ingredients and then through heat and and the mixing of different flavors, making something else, something more. So the process of homemaking is going to be this process of cleaning and organizing and reorganizing. That's the pranayama, the breath work that we're going to do is really an invitation into that. Because in order to center ourselves in the home, we have to keep it clean and we have to keep doing the work. So the home, that's the other thing, right? Is that when we come home to ourselves, we think of it as like we can exhale and release. And when we come home to ourselves, we're going to need to keep doing the work. The home is this sanctuary within which we do the work that we need to do on ourselves, the work that we need to do in order to keep doing the work that we do in the world. And so it's constant paradox is how we get to really go deep into exploration. But once Snow White leaves the dwarves, after the prince saves her. Well, again, like the misogyny is there, right? But we'll go with it for a second. So she's saved by the prince, and then she goes to the palace. And I wonder what that life is like. All we're told is that they live happily ever after, but do they? Because last I checked, having a relationship and building a home is not happily ever after. There are downs and there are ups. There are lows and there are highs. There's a lot of work to be put in. There's a lot of reorganization of the furniture. There's a lot of cleaning, and there's a lot of consideration of what's coming in. Again, here are the boundaries that meeting the threshold of the home. What's going to come into the palace and what isn't. And I wonder, does she sometimes miss the forest, the birds, the wild? Does she go on rides into the forest because that's where she comes home to herself? Does Snow White take the horse sometimes out into the wild, out into the forest, to go visit with the dwarves, to go climb up on a mountain and sit on the mountain and meditate? So is her palace with the prince the home, or is the home the forest time? And it doesn't, we don't have to have a right answer. It can be that that it's a both and, right? Because what makes something a home, we can have many homes in our lives and many things that make us feel at home in ourselves. And I actually would love to know what that means for you. What does that mean for you to come home to it yourself? And put it in the comments. I would really love to read it and to be in conversation with you. I'd really love to know what that means for you to come home to yourself. How do you organize the home that you are? What are the things that you need in order to feel at home? Because a home is it's a place of deep authenticity. So that means a lot of layers of bullshit are going to be shed. Again, it's the release, it's the taking off, it's the getting undressed and releasing ourselves from some things. But then it's the gathering, right? So it's a shedding into our authenticity and this deep integration, this deep weaving of the experiences that we have, so that we can make whatever happened in the world part of the net, part of the fabric of what the home is. All right, so to come home to ourselves is also a process of weaving what's going on in our lives and the experiences that we have and the people that we have a wonderful experience with and the people that we struggle with, and the people that we're, how do you come home to yourself where there's a lot of friction in a certain relationship in your life, and maybe it's not even spoken about, maybe it's this friction that's so much of it is inside yourself. How do you come home and make a home for yourself if that's your if that's your intention for how you want to live your life? And how is that going to influence the behavior, the experience, how you're bringing yourself to the world? It's not exactly related, but it is. It really is. It's a very similar idea. So yesterday I was driving with my kids. It's summer break, and I was taking them to the beach, which is our kind of our sacred space. And in a way, for me at least, I won't speak for them, but for me, when I go to the beach with my children in the summer, I'm finding a way to actually make it totally relate. For me, that's a homecoming. When I take them to the beach, because I've been doing that since they were very, very little, that's a homecoming. That's a grounding. And we try to do that in the summer break, at least 1 or 2, sometimes 3 afternoons a week, where I drive them to the beach and we have a picnic at sunset, and we eat our dinner, and we have time to play and time to relax and time with the ocean. It's very sacred for us, and it is a homecoming. And it's not just a homecoming because that's what I've been doing with them since they were really little. It's a homecoming for me because I went to the beach so much as a kid, and my dad would take me and my sister to the beach. So when I take them to the beach, and at this point it's a homecoming for me with them, it's also a homecoming because it takes me into my childhood, and it brings up a lot of memories, and it triggers this process of deep gratitude for the childhood that I had and for my dad, and it's this deep interweaving, right? So yesterday we were driving to the beach, and we have our summer playlist on, and Jill Scott's song Golden comes on. You know that one? It's living my life like it's golden, living my life like it's golden. Such a beautiful song. And I was hit, you know how sometimes kind of songs throw you into a deep process? So I was hit with this invitation. I was like, what does that, what if I lived my life like it's golden? How would that make me who I am in this situation, in these circumstances, in this part of my life, when that shows up, when this happens? And I started to kind of go through some of the things that can happen, some of the things that really struggle me. And I was thinking, how do I live my life like it's golden in all these different scenarios, situations, circumstances that are a struggle, that are it's not. I'm like, how do I live my life like it's golden when I feel like I am not golden, right? When I feel like the bitch in me wants to lash out. What would it be like? How would I feel? What would my behavior be if I actually took a pause right before I behave from the feeling? And I ask myself, how do I live my life like it's golden in this moment, right? So very, very similar is this invitation to make a home for ourselves. Every moment in the day when you are facing a situation that you struggle with, and I'm not talking about like a really, really hard things, although it could be helpful with those things, but I'm not referring to like the hardest things that can happen to a person necessarily, because those moments deserve their own sanctuary possibly. However, it could be helpful. And when it's helpful, you can take that for when it is helpful and leave it when it's not. But in the situations that you're facing and in the moments that you are finding yourself in moments of friction and struggle, what would it do to the situation? What would the effect be on you if you live like you're coming home to yourself in this moment? What would it mean to come home to yourself in that moment of deep struggle when you're most lost, right? Because the home is a place of authenticity. Again, here's the paradox. It's when we are most authentic, right? Like at home in ourselves. And our authenticity is both the unraveling and the real feeling that we have, and letting it roar when it needs to roar, because the home is a safe space to let it have its 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 full experience. And the authenticity is not just a feeling, because a feeling is something that flows and it passes. So we need to give room for the authenticity of the feeling. And the authenticity is also who are you? Who are you? What are the qualities? That's where home is an identity. What are the qualities that make you who you are? So how do you come home to yourself, both in the unraveling and in the release and in the total authentic experience of the emotion that just washes over, and you allow yourself to let it roar through you in the home? And who are you? And I'm not saying what's your true self, because I don't like that term. I've said that here on this platform many times before. The idea of a true self is really false, in my opinion, because we have many true selves. So we have many aspects of what makes us who we are, and different aspects of ourselves, and it's often paradoxical, make us who we are. So the true self is plural. It's not just one thing. It's a plurality. It's layered. It's a very rich, contextualized, deep well of beingness. And the authenticity of it is the ability to know which self you need most at every moment. And the home is where it's the closet, not that we hide things in, but the closet that we come to in order to pick what's the most helpful dress to put on, what's the most helpful vest to put on in the moment, in an authentic way, in a real way. I hope that makes some sense for you and that it's somewhat helpful, right? And the idea is, and I'm really not good at it, this is something I so want to get better at, but also have a really hard time with, is like keeping things organized. Oh my gosh, my ADHD is like, fuck it. I want to do other things. I'd rather study, I'd rather read, I'd rather go to the beach with my kids than vacuum the house, okay? Then clean it up, then organize the closets. I know the value of it, but it's not what I feel like. But I have to discipline myself to do it. So the home is not just, come home to ourselves is not just a releasing of our responsibilities, but a gathering of it. Think about Hestia, Greek goddess of the hearth and of the home. That's the part of us that has to tend to the hearth. The hearth is a very central space in the home, and a boundary around the most dangerous element, right? That if we don't tend to it, it can burn us all down. So the home is where we tend to the parts of us that could burn us down, that could burn others down, that could cause havoc. And you tend to it. You don't try to control it. You don't suffocate it, right? We need the fire. You don't use it against others. You don't use it against yourself. You tend to it. And you organize the closets, right? So that you can find the piece that you need to wear in any given moment more easily. So that the process of wearing our different parts can be fluid. So that you can be fluent at being who you are, so that your identity can shift as necessary. Okay, so let's do this breath work right now to find, this is from the yoga tradition, and it's called Nadi Shodhana Pranayama. So it's a breath work that cleanses, they say purifying. I don't like that idea of purifying. I don't like that word. But it's a cleansing of the channels of energy in our body. We clean and clear and kind of organize ourselves by clearing the left and the right, the masculine and the feminine, the sun and the moon, the grounded and the dynamic. We clear both of those sides so that we can anchor ourselves in our center, so that the central channel of energy that is considered in the yoga tradition to be a column of light can be really clear, so that what we're burning doesn't smell like oil, but it smells like the good scent of fire. I don't know if that worked, that metaphor, but go with me. So we're gonna have I'm not mirroring you. So you're gonna have your right hand and you're gonna bring your index and your middle fingers to the root of your thumb. The ring and the pinky and the thumb stay up. Okay? Cool? And you turn it to your face. And then allow your eyes to soften and turn your attention to your breath. Feel the breath moving through you. You don't have to do anything with it right away. Whenever your eyes want to close, you can let them close. Notice how when you turn your attention to the breath begins to shift, to change, to deepen. And once you've taken a few breaths and you feel like the rhythm of it, you can feel the rhythm of your breath. You can feel your breath moving through you. Once you feel that, you can bring a tone to the back of the throat and engage your Ujjayi Pranayama, this triumphant breath. It's translated from Sanskrit into triumphant breath. And it's the breath that makes this resonant sound because the back of your throat, the top of your chest, it's a little bit contracted so that the passage of the breath is tighter, so that the breath can move through more powerfully. And once you find this breath for yourself, Ujjayi breath, a couple of more rounds just to feel it. Listen to the sound of it. Listen to what it's saying to you right now. And then the next time that you exhale, you're going to close your left nostril with your ring and your pinky finger and exhale out through the right side. And then inhale through the right side. And close both nostrils, hold the breath for a moment. And exhale through your left. Through your left side, inhale. Close and hold. And exhale right. Inhale right. Close and hold. And exhale left. Inhale left. Close both nostrils, hold the breath, and exhale right. Keep going on your own, a couple of more rounds. And as you exhale out through your right nostril, next time, you can relax your right hand, release it down to your right thigh, and let your hands release, your hands relax, and your breath move still through the tone in the back of the throat, still through Ujjayi Pranayama, just for a couple of more rounds. And notice if there's any messages around arriving in yourself, in your space, as a home, as a now clean and more organized space. Notice what wants to come through. What messages are you getting from the home that you are for yourself right now? What does the home that you are need from you in order to make your experience of yourself more aligned, more nourishing, more nurturing? And you can relax your Ujjayi breath and just let a couple of more rounds of natural breath to flow through, and listen to what's coming through you. You can start to move your head around, your neck around, maybe your hips. Maybe you circle your wrists around. Maybe you take a little twist in your seat. Move yourself in any way that helps you come out of meditation. And whenever you're ready, you can allow your eyes to open. So I really would love to know what it means for you to come home to yourself. Where does that land for you? Where does that take you? And what do you need right now from yourself? What does the home that you are needs from you in order to in order for you to be more nourished and nurtured and taken care of? Love to know. So put that in the comments. I can't wait to read them. I'm so grateful that you spent this time with me. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. More delicious explorations and embodied practices will come your way. And subscribe to my Substack for Muse Medicine to pour into your life on a weekly basis. And get my free ritual guide to make your own rituals. You can take this archetype of home and make a ritual for it and really invoke it in your life. So I'll leave a link for you in the description of the video for that. I'll leave a link for the little essay that I wrote about the home for my Substack as well. And I'm just so grateful that we got to spend some time together. So thank you, and I hope to see you soon. All right, take care. Namaste.